How's it going, guys? And welcome once again to the Foot and Fist Sports Network. And after talking about the UFC 205 prelims, it's time to talk about the main card. And what a card we have in store for us here. We have a great main event, Alvarez versus Conor McGregor. We have, let me see here, Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Come on. Then we have, let me also think, Joanna Killer, Joanna Champion, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, whatever you want to call her. She's an absolute murderer, and I feel really bad for Karolina Kowalkiewicz for having to take this fight. So let's go ahead and just start off with the first fight on the card, which is Miesha Tate versus Raquel Pennington. Now, we're going to make very quick work of this one because this is probably going to be the easiest fight to predict on the entire card. Why? Well, because Miesha Tate is a very tough chick. Now, Raquel Pennington is also a tough chick, but she's nowhere near as skilled as Miesha Tate. Honestly, Raquel Pennington sets the bar pretty low. All respect to her. She's very tough. She has okay striking. She has okay ground, wrestling, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to consider what she does. I just don't have a lot of, I guess you could say, enthusiasm about her game. I'm not a big fan of her fighting. I mean, sure, she can take a beating, but other than that, she really can't do much against at least good women. She went to a decision with Holly Holm, but that was because Holly Holm didn't strike. Didn't actually try to take her chances. So yeah, we're just gonna say Miesha Tate's gonna get a win here. Probably gonna be kind of too difficult to finish Raquel because she is a hard chick to fight. At least a hard chick to finish. So I'm gonna go with a decision, Miesha Tate, but it could also be a first, second, or third round knockout. Honestly, no problems for Miesha Tate in this fight. Now we're gonna talk about Kelvin Gastelum versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone, and do we have a fucking badass fight? My apologies, any Cowboys who saw that, but it was fine. Come on, Cowboys, come on. So yeah, whatever. Donald Cerrone is gonna have probably the hardest test of his welterweight career. Rick Story and Kelvin Gastelum have similar type of things. They're smaller guys, they're stocky, they're thick, and they like to put a lot of pressure on. Plus, their wrestling is their fortes. However, what Kelvin brings is a better game at basically everything. He's a better striker. He's a better wrestler. He's better at putting pressure on his opponent without getting hit, and I think that's going to be a problem for Donald Cerrone. However, what we do know about Donald Cerrone is his striking is legit. It's probably some of the best Muay Thai in the UFC, except for the first round. The first round's going to be a problem, but I'll get into that later. His ground game is sick, his jiu-jitsu. Now we've seen that he's showing his wrestling as well, so that's something to take into consideration as well. I think that the big question here, like I said, is the fact that Donald Cerrone has some trouble in the first round. We've seen over his career, he seems to have a hard time warming up, and he's been very open about this as well. He goes to a sports science doctor or a psychologist, who helps him out with that type of stuff, or at least he used to. I think it's on Joe Rogan's podcast that he doesn't do that anymore. But I'm pretty sure he used to go to one. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he did. And he used to have some trouble with that. Now he starts warming up a lot earlier and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what Donald Cerrone shows up in that first round. I think if he shows up, in form, in top shape in that first round, and really starts throwing stuff at Kelvin Gastelum, then I think he's going to have a unanimous decision. I don't think he's going to finish Kelvin because Kelvin is so tough. I can't really remember if he's been stopped. I can't think of one. All we know is that the guy is very, very good. He's very tough. He's very durable. So I think it's going to be a hard thing to do to finish Kelvin. However, like I said, if Kelvin can start lighting up Cowboy or at least neutralizing him in the first round, maybe hurt him a little bit, maybe do like what those Anjos did to him, hurt him and keep him moving backwards and sort of put some punishment on him, then maybe he can get an early stoppage. But I think that if that doesn't happen, then Donald's going to start pulling it out in the second round. And I just think it's going to be at most a split decision. But I think that Donald Cerrone will get the win, and it's going to be a decision. I'm going to go with 29-28, just because I think that Cowboy has some trouble in the first round, and I think that Kelvin is going to look to exploit that. But I think that after that, Donald Cerrone is going to come out of his shell, start putting it on Kelvin, and will win the last two rounds. It's going to be one hell of a fight, though. Stick around for that. That could be fight of the night. All right, guys, now it's time to talk about the only New Yorker on this card, Chris Weidman, who is taking on Yoel Romero. Now, this is going to be one hell of a fucking fight. Why? Because Yoel Romero brings the type of power, explosiveness that in that first round is unparalleled by anybody except for just maybe, Tyron Woodley. I mean, he is an absolute monster in that first round, and I can't think of anybody who can pretty much survive that without taking damage. You know what I mean? Now, Chris Weidman, all due respect to the guy, we saw that he took a lot of damage from, well, not a lot of damage, but he took damage from Vitor Belfort early on in that first round in their fight, but he survived it, and he pretty much made quick work of Vitor. Yo Romero is not going to gas that fast. He will gas. Don't get me wrong. He's carrying a lot of weight, carrying a lot of muscle, and that is going to tire him out like it always does. But he won't gas out about 2 minutes into the fight like Vitor did. He is going to gas out probably mid-second round. If Weidman can survive the first round and maybe even the first, minute and a half, 2 minutes of the second round, then I think that he's going to be able to pull it out. He's going to get a 29-28 decision, and I think that's probably where his best bet's going to be. Because I think in that first round, he has to be very careful of Yoel's power, his speed, his wrestling. It's going to be such a hard thing to deal with. But if anybody can do it, it's Chris Weidman, because we've seen he's very durable. Like I said, against Vitor Belfort, he showed that. And he's a very good fighter in his own right. His wrestling, it's not as good as Yo Romero's when it comes to pure wrestling, but MMA-wise, it might actually be better, because we've seen Chris Weidman is next to impossible to take down, and what's his name? Yo Romero has been taken down quite a bit. I just said what's his name about a guy I'm literally talking about. What the fuck is wrong with me? Anyway, so yeah, I think that's going to be a very even matchup when it comes to wrestling. But I think on the feet, Chris Weidman. I just said Chris Weidman. What can I talk, guys? Why can I talk? Chris Weidman is going to start dominating the fight, and he's just going to eke out a decision. It's going to be one hell of a fight, guys. Do not want to miss this. Now, before I finish about this fight, I want to say one thing. There's one thing to take into consideration when you think about Yo Romero, and that is the fact that he does have a dirty past, and that's not me accusing anybody. That's just something that's been very well known, you know what I mean? Between Stoolgate with Tim Kennedy, where he refused to get up from the stool, he spent like 60 extra seconds out there and then knocked out Tim Kennedy. Between his little PED thing, he's just had a lot of issues out there. I think he had some pretty intentional groin shots as well. I can't exactly remember who it was against, but he has a pretty dirty past, so expect him to try to sort of go with some of the dirty stuff if he is in trouble against Chris Weidman. I'm not saying he's going to, but I'm saying it wouldn't be surprising to see him do something like that. So take that into consideration. Hopefully the referees will also be taking that into consideration, because it's kind of a joke, the things that this guy gets away with. I mean, let's just be real here. The guy is dirty as fuck, all right? He does some shady shit, let's put it that way, and it's kind of a joke that he gets away with it just about every single time. But either way, I think Chris Weidman will get the win. I think I just said Chris might win once again, but he will get the win. Whatever. Chris Weidman will get the W. Now it's time to talk about the first title fight of the event, which is Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Joanna champion, Joanna killer, versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Let me tell you one thing, all right? Karolina Kowalkiewicz is a very good fighter. She's very tough. What I am worried about is the fact that she's a very beautiful woman, and I am very worried about her face, because Joanna has no mercy. She throws elbows. She throws fucking knees. I don't know if you guys saw this video. There's a video of her on Instagram where she is throwing elbows. Let me tell you, she throws elbows in combinations faster than most people throw punches in combinations. Her elbows are legit combos. You can see like 10 hit combos in a row by fucking elbows that are as fast as punches. She's hitting mitts. She's murdering the guy that's hitting mitts. She's an absolute monster. She might just be the scariest person in the UFC. You know, when it comes to Muay Thai. I mean, she is fucking scary. She ruins people's faces. She ruins women's faces, and that's not good for somebody as hot as Karolina Kowalkiewicz, because let me tell you, once her MMA career is over, she could use her looks. Joanna might just ruin that modeling career that she's always dreamed of. Well, she probably hasn't actually dreamed of it. Karolina, if you are watching this, which I know you are, then I apologize for that. It was just a joke. So Joanna is going to, even if she loses, which isn't likely, she is going to rip up Karolina's face. And I don't want to see that, to be honest with you. However, the fight's done. It's going to happen. And Karolina is going to get torn up. And let me tell you, one thing about Joanna, which might even just make her scarier, is the fact that she doesn't have a lot of power. You know, she's a 115-pound woman, so she doesn't really knock people out. So her fights just keep on going and going and going and just get more and more brutal as they go. So I feel really bad for Karolina. She's going to lose the decision here, and it's going to be a brutal one. I mean, it's going to be bloody, and what can I say? Joanna is such a badass fucking fighter. She's one of my favorite fighters to watch, to be honest with you, and I cannot wait to see her fight. Now we're going to talk about the co-main event, which is Tyron Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and this is going to be one hell of a fight, and I'm glad the UFC made it after T. Wood was sort of trying to duck Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He was trying to get the big money fight, even though, you know, he has to sort of defend his title against somebody at that level, at the highest level first. He's not Conor McGregor, who can sell tickets, you know, like nothing. You know, he sells so much, Conor McGregor does. Tyron Woodley can't do that, so it was kind of funny that he was going to be calling out people like that, or at least trying to refuse to fight Stephen Thompson. But either way, he's going to fight him, and to be honest with you, he's going to lose. I know, I mean, Tyron Woodley has got a God-given power that's just, it's amazing to see. The way he can put people to sleep with one punch is just brutal, but it's awesome. Now, Wonderboy Thompson, his striking is unlike anything we've ever seen in the octagon, at least something that I've never seen before. He is just perfect in everything he does. His fighting style is amazing to watch. Whether he's going for knockouts or whether he's going for points, either way, it's so fucking fun. So I saw a clip on Instagram the other day where it was comparing Bruce Lee from various films, with actually Bruce Lee talking about his style and stuff like that, compared to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, what he actually does in the octagon, and they were exactly the same thing. It's like, who the fuck does that shit? Everybody talks about how Bruce Lee's kicks were just about, about having flair and stuff like that, were only for movies, but Jesus Christ, does Stephen Wonderboy Thompson make them effective, and that's why we love him. That's why we think that he's pretty much going to be the champion for quite a while. I mean, he trains his wrestling with Weidman, which is something that he needed to work on big time, but now it's fucking lights out. So there's no doubt that he's gonna make Woodley suffer. I mean, I think it's gonna be very similar to the fight he had against Rory McDonald. Rory McDonald was a dangerous striker. Tyron Woodley's a dangerous striker. He has more power than McDonald did, but I definitely think that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is going to fight that kind of smart fight. He's going to keep Woodley, who is pretty much the same height, or at least the same frame compared to Wonderboy as Woodley is, and I think he's going to dominate him at range. Woodley's going to have a very hard time getting in close, and Stephen Thompson is going to light him up from the outside, pretty much beat the fuck out of him, probably for 5 rounds, I would say. I think it's probably going to go to decision. If not, then I think it'll be very close. It's going to be, how about this? It's going to be very similar to the Johnny Hendricks fight, just not as one-sided. I think that Tyron Woodley will survive at least 2 rounds, but probably even 3. And then from the 4th or 5th, I think it's going to be open season for Wonderboy. And I think it's probably either going to finish there or it's going to go to a decision. But either way, Wonderboy Thompson will be walking away with the gold in New York, which is his sort of his adopted city. He lives there. He married Chris Weidman's sister, who's obviously from New York. That's where he trains with Ray Longo. So what can I say, It's sort of like a second home for Wonderboy, and he's going to get his belt in that city. All right, guys, so now it is finally time to talk about the main event of the evening, and it is Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor. Now, this is going to be one of those fights that could go down in history as one of the best of all time. Why? Because Eddie Alvarez can take a beating. We all know that Conor McGregor can dish out a beating. He has some of the heaviest hands the featherweight division and light heavyweight division as well has ever seen. I mean, we've seen him put people out to sleep. We saw Jose Aldo go to sleep in 13 seconds. We saw how he destroyed Chad Mendes with that one punch. We've seen him wreck people's brains on a regular basis. We saw him knock down Nate Diaz twice legit. One other time was Nate Diaz trying to bait Conor onto the ground. But make no mistake about it, 2 of those knockdowns were legit. And to knock down Nate Diaz, you have to be one strong hitting motherfucker. You know what I mean? And Conor McGregor has that kind of power. He has that just undescribable kind of power. For his size, that is very, very rare. I mean, Jeremy Stevens, who's also on the card, has it. But I can't really think of any other guys at lightweight and featherweight right now that have that kind of power. Chad Mendes also used to have it, but I mean, there's just very few guys, you know what I mean? Conor McGregor has that. Now, Eddie Alvarez also has a lot of power, but he doesn't have the same kind of, destruction as Conor McGregor has. Eddie Alvarez, we saw what he did to Rafael dos Anjos. He was beating him up on the feet, and he had him against the cage. Rafael dos Anjos was still fighting through it, but make no mistake about it, he was in deep shit, and the referee rightfully stopped it. You know what I mean? It's going to be such a great fight. Why? Because both guys have chins on them, and both guys can dish out punishment. I think that Eddie Alvarez is going to get caught, because we've seen him get caught just about every fight he's had in the octagon. He has been hit on the reg, you know what I mean? Anthony Pettis was lighting him up on the feet whenever Eddie Alvarez wasn't hugging him against the cage, and he's had a lot of fights where he's gotten lit up, and I think that that's where Conor McGregor is going to shine. I think that regardless of how the fight goes, Conor is going to land big shots every single round. Hey, you never know. He may end up on his back every single round. But as long as they're on the feet, Eddie Alvarez is going to be in grave danger of getting hit by one of those shots. Even against Rafael dos Anjos, we saw, he's not the most technical guy. He just sort of brawls a lot of times, at least compared to a guy like Conor McGregor, who is very technique-focused, except for that one fight against Nate Diaz. He's always very technique-focused. And I think that he's going to use his range to just probably control the distance, at least on the feet. And I think that's where Eddie Alvarez is going to have problems. He's going to be trying to take Conor McGregor down because that's where he has a big advantage. And we'll see what kind of takedown defense Conor McGregor has. We saw against Nate Diaz that he has improved it. The thing is, Nate Diaz has never really been a specialist in takedowns. He's never really been a guy that shoots for double legs or stuff like that. He's more of the kind of guy that gets taken down and then fucks you up. You know what I mean? So we don't really know how much we can take from that. We do know that his takedown defense is getting better, but we don't know how much better it's actually gotten, especially against a guy like Eddie Alvarez, who has some pretty solid takedowns, excuse me. And we saw against Anthony Pettis that even if he doesn't get the takedown, he isn't opposed to just holding a guy against the fence and tiring him out, which could also be a problem for Conor because we've seen he does get tired. Now, I'm aware of the fact that in his second fight with Nate Diaz, he did have an injury. He did hurt his legs kicking, but make no mistake about it, he was tired. You know what I mean? In that third round, he was tired. He was really, really tired. You could see him in the corner after that. He was in pain because of his leg, but he was also tired. And that's something that Conor needs to work on. And it seems like, at least according to the training regimen he's on, he's focusing a lot on cardio. And that is probably his biggest weakness apart from his wrestling. And I would say that's something that he definitely needs to continue to work on. I think that Eddie Alvarez is going to lose this fight. I don't think it's going to be as fast as Conor McGregor has been saying it will, just because of the fact that Eddie Alvarez, he can take a truck, full on big rig against him and probably survive. I don't know if he can really survive that kind of thing, but he could definitely take a punch, and I think that Conor McGregor is going to have a hard time putting him to sleep. But I just think he's going to connect with Eddie Alvarez so regularly and so often that eventually he is going to hurt him and he's going to get a TKO victory. I don't think he'll put Eddie Alvarez to sleep, but I think he will get a TKO victory. I'm probably going to go with the late second round or early third, just because of the fact that, like I said, I think that Eddie Alvarez is very susceptible to punches. His chin isn't susceptible, but after a while, you just can't take shots from Conor McGregor for so long, unless your name is Nate Diaz. But Nate Diaz has never been finished. It's just so, except for one head kick by Josh Thompson, But neither is Eddie Alvarez. It's so fucking hard to pick this fight. I just think that Conor McGregor is going to be the guy that goes out there and gets the win. I like him in this fight. I don't know what it is. He's a bigger guy. He's not thicker, but he's a longer guy. He's going to use his range. And Eddie, like I said, he has a hard time. He's not exactly the most technical guy. And when you have a guy like Conor McGregor who is very technical and and who specializes in keeping his opponent away from him, he's pretty much always fought people that are shorter than him, apart from Nate, and he's always dominated him in the same exact way. He controls the distance, uses his supreme movement. I actually fucking said movement like infamous MMA on Instagram. Holy shit. His movement is supreme, and he's going to use that to beat Eddie Alvarez, and he will get the win. It's going to be one hell of a fight, though, as long as it lasts. Like I said, I think Conor's going to win it late in the second, early in the third, but, Eddie Alvarez could just as easily dominate the fight, take him down in every single round, just hold him there, That could also happen. I have no idea. I just think that right now, based on what I've seen from Eddie Alvarez in the UFC, I think that Conor McGregor has to be favored, and I think rightfully so. He is the favorite on the odds, and I think he will win. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think I'm insane, because I know for a fact there's going to be a lot of people out there that are saying that Conor McGregor has no chance. If you're one of those people, let me know, and let me know why. I want to know exactly why you think that Conor McGregor is going to get his ass beat. I want to know the same thing about Tyron Woodley and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and the other title fight, which is Joanna versus Carolina. Let me know also about Donald Cerrone, because I think that fight's going to be sick. So let me know what. Alright guys, that is the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, as always, please hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It's always a big help when you guys hit the like button. It helps me get a little bit of extra revenue. That way I can invest on do better equipment to make this channel get better and better. And hopefully, as the community grows, we'll become a big family. And I hope you guys stick around to see the Fight Fallout show, which will be coming out Monday or Tuesday. And by the way, Tuesday I get Wi-Fi in the new place, so a lot more content will be coming your way. And once that happens, boom, I'm hoping this thing will explode. I need your help to do that, so please hit the like button, please subscribe, and check me out in the next videos. So as always, I will see you on the next one.